Hello and welcome to the Cable Live series. I am Ogechi Ekianyao. On weekends, we talk about the impact of the pandemic on several sectors of the economy of the nation. Today, we're focusing on how the pandemic affects the agriculture sector. So agriculture is crucial to Nigeria's growth and development, but as we have witnessed with the pandemic, it is vulnerable to several external shocks. The pandemic destabilized supply chains and generally heightened the risks that investors face. Today, we have with us Jesse Osiobe, who is the founder and CEO of Farmkart Foods. Farmkart Foods and it builds an investment vehicle for agriculture through crowdfunding. And the goal is to make an impact on food security through supporting local farmers and creating capital, as well as including youth in agriculture. Is an agri-tech platform where farmers can invest in livestock to increase local food production and get returns on their investment. Jesse, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Jesse, can you talk to us about the model that FarmCat runs?
Okay. It's a simple basic model that enables a win-win situation for all parties included. For instance, what we do is simple. We manage the entire process of the farm. We run the entire process from production to sales. And literally right now we're outsourcing our production of feed to big players like the Ollams and the Top Feeds and stuff. So what happens is scaling up production is a huge momentous task for us. So what we do is we actually leverage on the public through crowdfunding, where we actually raise a particular sum of amount of money to actually fund that particular farm season or that farm operations. And at the end of that process, we make sales of that product and we actually pay back the investors with their own investments and their profits. And we actually keep some back for the company to actually grow the company. So it's just a simple way of actually helping we produce more and sell and basically make profits for the investors as well.
Okay. And then one of your goals is to include youth in agriculture. How successful has that been?
I think it's been very impressive. Why I say that is because I myself am a young person, and like they say, likes attract like. So the thing about it is everyone who has come on board the business, from staff to investors to back-end staffs, even a few players in the industry have been very young at heart. Let me use that word. So I would say to a pretty much extent, the youths are really seeing us as models to say, okay, fine, these people are doing this. I think we can do it. Because if you look at it, basically, those who have been in the farming system for a long period of time are between the ages of between 60, 65, 70. And so finding it attractive for young people to come into this space is really hard until they can get to see people who they can look up to and say, okay, fine, if XYZ can go into this and find a niche for himself, I think I can model after his work. So the main issue for finding young people is that we have to actually showcase what we are doing and say, okay, fine, this is possible and you guys can come on board. So I would say, yes, fine. I think the least age average at the company from staff to the CEO is about 33, 34. So that's really nice. I think so.
Okay. Now, since we're talking about the impact of the pandemic on the agriculture sector, we want to find out from you how COVID-19 has affected FarmCat's model and just the agriculture sector generally.
COVID-19 actually had a major impact around the whole world, not even less agriculture. So I would say because of food life and everything that happens with food cuts across every sector. So if you're not eating well, you won't be healthy and you have to visit the hospital. So food actually plays a key role in this whole pandemic thing. And because of people didn't have the opportunity to actually keep producing, they had to sit back at home. There was a great impact in shortages, in food storages. So the cycle of what we used to producing, storing, and producing, selling was hampered. And how do you think this would have been probably mitigated? Nobody actually predicted COVID-19. And nobody actually can predict what the impact of COVID-19 will be, because it's something that happened before. So for us at FarmCat and how that happened, there was the supply chain that actually broke, because the point is hotels were short, export couldn't happen. You'll find that because we produce these fishes and we actually smoke them, package them, and sell them to diaspora. So those things didn't happen. So everything was locked down in. And even though it was locked down in, people still could not buy because there was no buying power. Buying power was reducing on a daily basis. People were losing jobs, not being paid full salary. There was low interconnectivity between states. So if I had a farm probably in Osun State, I couldn't bring my produce down to Lagos State, which has the biggest market because of the restrictions and movement. So yeah. So it was a huge thing that nobody could predict. So there were definitely losses that had happened, and there are definitely losses that people are still counting ahead. But we're still trying to believe and hope that things will get better as we grow, because as we move on in this phase of this whole COVID-19 and the whole numbers going here and there and trying to release the lockdown, farmers are still trying to pick up from the pieces, which is really hard, because for small scaleholder farmers right now, most of them cannot even go back what they were doing before, because they don't have the capital base to actually say, okay, fine, I've lost XYZ amount of money. I don't have that kind of savings to get that XYZ of money. So it actually takes away small scaleholder farmers out of the picture until there's a miracle somewhere, probably there's a COVID-19 loan somewhere, or there's a palliative somewhere that can help them. But if that doesn't come into place, I think the space will be left for the big players to manage themselves. So for us, literally, what it did was, yes, it hampered our sales, brought down our returns for the year. But what we're trying to keep on is just hang in there, survive. That's our hope for this year. Just survive. When you survive, at least before the end of the year or before pandemic is over, you can actually kick back and get back to where you are.
So since you're on survival mode, you're not looking at paying out investors this year. Is there hope for that?
Especially we have been, because the point is, in as much as you have to understand the situation on ground, you have to put yourself in the side of an investor and put yourself aside as a businessman. So the point is, we have decided to take the lead in most. Right? We have to be the lead in most, because most times investors don't really understand. So when you're part of this country, most investors know how this thing plays. So we as a company have actually taken more of the bleed in the most, and we feel that if we can keep this run and survive, even though the income is really low, we can actually surmount this in coming months. But definitely we have been paying investors. If your investors understand and they're trying to say, okay, fine, we're here with you guys all the way, it's a 50-50 thing. It has to be both sides to actually make this thing work.
Okay, so now more than ever, we need to talk about sustainability of investments. I mean, especially with FarmCat's model, and just sustainability of investments in rural and smallholder agriculture development. So what do you think, in your opinion, what do you think we can do to ensure sustainability of investments?
For me, it's a two-way thing. Money doesn't solve everything, right? Money doesn't solve everything. And throwing money around doesn't mean that you get the job done. How to be sustainable? It's actually putting the right practice into motion as regarding whatever you're trying to do, and seeing that the end result is going to be perfect. Even though it might not be 100%, but you're going to get something tangible out of it. For instance, look into crops. For instance, now in the last 3 weeks, there's not been rain. It's been really windy, but there's not been rain. rain. Now, to everybody outside, they're like, oh, I like the weather. But to a farmer, he already knows that he's going to have some losses in the next coming months. You know why? And this is the rainy season where they have to plant the wet farming. This is the wet farming season. So most of them have gone into planting, expecting the rains to fall so the ground can its own portion of it. But right now, in the last 3 weeks, there's not been any rain. So meaning that whatever you have planted that is not based on wet season farming will not function or would not survive it. You might have to expect that you have low yields at this point of time. Sustainability means that we have to put in the right to actually get right produce. For instance, irrigation is expensive in this country, so most farmers don't have the capacity to do irrigation. You get, and now if you are not financially capable of handling this kind of project in this kind of season where there's no rain, those who have the money can actually deploy very quick irrigation system that can make things work out quickly. But those who cannot or don't have the capacity or are not close to water will have to just bear the losses. So I think for being sustainable is actually putting the right mechanisms into place and saying, okay, fine, you understand that farming, but at the same time, we need the support in X aspects that we cannot fight for ourselves. And that's where the government comes in. Apart from just saying, okay, fine, you're enacting policies, you need to put in the right resources to aid farmers. For instance, let me put a picture. I was having a discussion with a farmer some few hours ago. And he's in a community that there's no power. He's been running a farm for more than 9 years on generator, a very massive farm that there's no power in the entire community. There are about 3 communities in that space, and there's no power line coming into that space. Now, for instance, he needs to now draw power into that space. And he did a calculation, and it's going to cost him 42 million naira to have power in that entire community, because the power line will go all the way from the entrance through the community down to his farm. Now, if he brings that from his own financial purse, that is profit from somewhere or a running cost or a capital, where those materials won't be owned by him, to be owned by the government. And at the same time, the government will now start generating revenue from the power they're going to be using. So you see, the whole thing is just done around not make people work. So if we want to make farming sustainable, we have to provide these basic amenities: power, access roads, you get water. So we're not asking for we're not asking for too much. Just a few things that will aid those who want to go into, can actually keep on producing, so we don't have food shortages and XYZ. So I think for me, sustainability has to be infused of right resources for me. That's where the rubber meets the road. If the right input and resources are put into spaces, I think we will survive and we'll go through all this.
Okay. So you're of the opinion that the government has a role to play in agri businesses?
I think both parties, government and private sector, both parties.
Okay. So how can we add value to smallholder farmers in Nigeria? How can Nigeria add value to smallholder farmers in Nigeria?
Add value. No. Because of a smallholder farmer is what we call a smallholder farmer. Now, a smallholder farmer literally might not have capacity to add value to what he's producing. To be honest, he basically just produces to sell. A smallholder farmer is never thinking of converting his tomatoes into paste. He's thinking, I just want to produce. I want to keep my family okay. I have the passion to actually produce. I have the passion for farming. I have a passion to do go into aquaculture. I don't have that big dream to actually just become the next how I put it, next Dangote. So what now happens is people in that space come in and say, okay, fine, this guy has a passion, that guy has a passion, that guy has a passion. He just wants to do something small in his space. So someone who comes with a business mindset and comes with a business idea and says, okay, fine, I can manage these people. I can make them produce what they have to produce. So, but I'm not going to push them the burden of saying that they have to add value to what they have to do. Let them just keep on doing what they have to do. Get them paid. Let them get paid the right wages for what they're producing. And I can actually take that product and convert it and add value to that product And it's a win-win situation because wherever they are producing automatically is bought and paid for, which doesn't happen regularly because most times it's always post-harvest loss. So most times when a farmer is producing, he's scared that he might not be able to sell. So in a business person, a business entity, or the government process that comes and says, okay, fine, I want to assure you that if you go and farm on your 1 acre land base, I promise you that I will buy it at a valuable price and I will go and convert this thing and give it more life, which is add value. And that gives the farmer the impetus to say, okay, fine, I'm happy that even before I'm going into the farming season, I am sure that whatever I'm producing, no matter how small, no matter how big, will be paid for. And on that point, you have taken off the burden of the smallholder farmer and said, okay, fine, yes, these guys can do this. And you don't have to put the energy of saying they want to actually convert or add value. But if you're going to push the value addition to the smallholder farmers, it becomes overwhelming. These guys are not skilled. They're not probably educated or trained on that space. So I think we should take away the burden of adding value to finished products or products that are being produced here from smallholder farmers and put it on people who have the skill and the energy to do that. Gives everybody his space and his place to do what they have to do properly.
Okay. So in a 2019 report by Africa Agriculture Status, it states that 81% providers in Nigeria or food provided in Nigeria is provided by Agric entrepreneurs, and they're mostly small and medium scale entrepreneurs. And then they call them the hidden middle. And they say this is because even though they're a fundamental part of agriculture, they are not involved in policy debates. And so we know that these people exist. We know that they are such a crucial part of agriculture, but we don't know how they can scale. How do these people, how the small and medium agripreneurs scale? How can they scale up?
I'll put myself into perspective. Mm-hmm. One of the hardest things to do in Nigeria is scale your business, because people, the prosecutors that actually have been given the mandate to actually fund small scale businesses are not really doing the right job. And why we'll say that is because it's a grassroots thing. Now, most times, I would like to say, yes, lack of information actually is a problem. And if you say, okay, fine, these things are available, but they don't know. So if you have this is available and you have the funding available, you have these schemes available for people to actually say, okay, fine, come here, you have this business running, we can help you with funding that can help you move your business from 1x to 10x. And the person doesn't know about it. There's a problem. So I think the information has to come down to this grassroots and say, okay, fine, these things are available. Please come over. For instance, I'll put it like a national loan. The national loan available is for farmers, probably for small scale farmers and everything. Now, if you look at the prerequisites or the prerequisite for you to go through that process to actually receive a loan, is most times most farmers don't have them. They don't have the documentation to actually access those loans. And these are small scale holder farmers who need these things more than major of them. So for me, I feel scaling the business is easy. Most times people have to depend on VCs or individuals or friends and families to actually move their business from where they are to where they have to be. You go to a bank to take a loan, the numbers are always very crazy and scary because you have to start paying your loan from day one. And farming is not that way. You put the seed on the ground, it doesn't germinate the next month, it doesn't germinate the second month. So we need people to formulate the right policies to structure loans or palliatives or scale up funds that will suit the agricultural sector. The fund for agriculture is different from the fund for healthcare. So basically, we eat every day, but we don't plant every day. So meaning that it's going to be a shortfall. So having palliatives or having everything for farmers to actually say, okay, fine, I know how this will work. I know this can sustain my business. I know this can help my business at this point in time. Please function this thing around how agriculture works and help us scale and help us grow. That's the only thing that can happen.
Okay. So how do we protect or shield the agriculture sector from external shocks like the pandemic or any other crisis that may arise in the future? For instance, we saw the African swine flu fever that just happened and wiped away over 500,000 pigs. How do we protect the agricultural sector from crises of the pandemic, of the sort of the pandemic and diseases that ravage farmers and their stock and their livestock and all of that?
I think one of them is data. One of them is data, and having to understand that data is very key. Like, do we actually know how many pig farmers we have in Nigeria? Do we actually know how many type of pigs we have currently being grown in Nigeria? What are the major diseases that happen? How are they being prevented? Just like you understand that there's polio and there's the polio vaccine and there's a drive to actually make sure that everybody's vaccinated. So whenever diseases like this are present, you need to understand, okay, first, let's actually do a census. Where exactly are these farmers? Where exactly are they? How can we find this is real? Where you can actually put yourself in a space where it doesn't affect you. For instance, what we're doing right now is, okay, fine. Even as a country, as Nigeria as we are saying there are a lot of issues going on currently. For instance, there's a maize pandemic already right now. The federal government put a ban on FX for maize, meaning that if you want to go get maize from outside, you have to source for FX by yourself, not from the CBN anymore. And when you do that, meaning that everything goes crazy. So when maize is one of the most used item in Nigeria, it's used to make cornflakes, it's used to make poultry feed, it's used to make a lot of things. So it happens that it affects across board. That's why you see chicken will go up, eggs will go up, a lot of prices, your cornflakes will go up, anything that has to do with maize will go up. So the point is now, yes, the CBN has done a ban on that so that they can enable local players in this space. But the point is that local players cannot meet the demand of our own local consumption. So how's that going to happen? You have to enable people to go into the farm so that that shock that we're going to receive at the first instance will be cushioned a bit. So I'm not saying that those policies are not helpful. The point is it has to go in pari passu to make sure that it doesn't affect the local consumption of people in the country. Because if there's no maize, meaning that we'll all struggle for what is available. And when we struggle for what is available, the highest bidders into space, and at the same time, you're not beginning to do pricing wars and everything, which I think is not healthy. So to avoid shocks, I think, like I always say, the government. I'm not saying that the government is everything, but the government has a role to direct how these things move, so that it helps everyone in this space, both the players, both the investors, both the farmer himself, and also both the end user, which is the people who actually get to eat most of this food. So how do we make this work? How do we stop this shock from not affecting us? How do we say that, okay, fine, at the long run, do we have food to sustain us? Look at Lebanon. The whole blast took away their silos. They don't have wheat anymore. Do you get? So if a whole country is left with just 1 month of supply of wheat, how does that work? So they grow food to store them. But at the same time, if the cost of producing those food is very high, nobody will go into that space anymore. So the government has a way of actually saying, let's reduce the cost of production wheat for Nigerians. Let's say, okay, let's put money in the right spaces. Let's help them do this. Let's help them do that. So I always say, the government has a lot to play for us, honestly.
Yeah, well, the Ministry of Agric, I think, said they had released some form of intervention. They have intervened in this whole pandemic. Have you received anything from the government? Also, we spoke to BOI earlier, the Bank of Industry, and they spoke about telling African farmers' story, and they also talked about focusing on the agric sector specifically to cushion the effects of the pandemic. So, have you turned to the government for help, and how did that go?
Honestly, we have never gotten any reality or any funding from the government ever. Now, not because we've not tried. We have tried, but peradventure we're not found worthy or whatever it is. We've been to everything. Now, it's not about saying these things out. It's about how's the impact on the ground. I can come out and do a conference and we're releasing 350 billion naira, but what's the impact on the ground? How is it touching the real farmers? I can mention about 50 of my friends who have never gotten anything. I can mention my friends, a few of them who say they applied for 25 million and they got 2 million naira. So it's I'm not saying it's not there, but the point is, who are the people, who are the details of these farmers, who are these real farmers, not audio farmers, who are the real farmers accessing these palliatives? Who are these people accessing this resources available for farmers? Are they real, or are they just making a statement for people to just understand that they're doing something? So for me, I'm saying, yes, those things are good. We want to hear them, to have them available, but let them go through impact check. Let them see how far they've gone. Are they doing the right thing? Are people truly receiving this funding? And how are they measuring up in their implementation?
Okay. So what are the lessons you've learned from COVID-19, from this COVID era?
I think it's a lot, because why I say a lot, and I'll mention a few, is you can't predict the future. You can't predict the future. And if you can't predict the future, you have to live on how things come to you, even though you have goals and aspiration. So you have to be optimistic, you have to be positive, you have to have hope, but you have to live life as it comes, still believing that things will get better. So what we've learned is simple. For instance, we actually found that our key production points or channels has to have a value addition point in every of it to save you systematic losses at every point in time. For instance, if you're to shut down 3 months without you actually doing anything, how can you move your product to a safe zone, which is adding value, that you don't lose your product? So in every system that we're trying to play out here is, how can you infuse value addition into your product so that you are actually safe in whatever crisis that might happen. So for us, it's like, okay, fine, add value around anywhere you are. Add value. You're doing fish processing. If you're doing eggs, see how you can add value to it. If you're doing chicken, see how you can actually add value to it. Whatever product you're adding or you're producing, see how you can add value to it. If you don't have the capacity to add value to it, collaborate with people who have the capacity to. There are people who have that space, who are in that location, that can actually help you to move your products from level 1 to level 5.
Okay, we understand that some farm businesses have gone under, and then some others are in huge debt. So what practical ways can government help these businesses?
It's really sad, because I know a few farmers that have gone under, and I know a few farmers that are in debt, and no one is excluded, because everyone got hit by the pandemic. Everyone got hit by the pandemic. Now the point is, those who you can see probably still striving, probably have some financial prowess somewhere that's given them that backing to actually mitigate against going under. Those who actually went under basically because they didn't have any funding. So to solve the issue of farmers going under or those who are in debt, is for whoever is going to be in charge of making sure that production in the country still exists, is that they take a critical look at businesses who are saying that we need help, we need the government to come into this space, we are in minus XYZ. And the government goes in there, they help them look through their books and say, okay, fine, this is but this is how they will come out of this, and support these farmers real time. For those who have gone on that, look at their assets, look at the ways they can come back and say, okay, fine, do you have the real power to still come back? and just support private sector, government agencies in charge of like BOI, NASA, CBN, and just see how they can actually help those true, genuine farmers, not those who are coming out to say, okay, fine, I'm into farming. You actually can take stock of their assets. You can see what they have. You can see their transactions. You can look through their accounts. You can see everything that's okay, fine. These people have actually been doing business, but this pandemic was hugely affected. I have people who actually have products that couldn't ship it out. They're into export alone. They produce and they export it, but they couldn't move products out because borders were shut. And that's some millions of dollars gone the drain. I had farmers who were throwing their foods away because they were getting spoiled, but they couldn't stop because production had to keep on going, even not to lose everything. So the only way is to actually, okay, fine, we can help you to know how you have been doing, how bad the situation is, analyze it, and help farmers. Still, the same thing happens: government, private sectors, VCs, and the what of you.
Are there any opportunities? Because it just seems like sad stories all through, and it's like doom. Are there any opportunities that can come out of this crisis that we can latch on post-pandemic? In one or two sentences, yeah.
Is that I think it's possible because you can see that there's a demand. That's the first thing. The demand is much. You understand? We have so much that we can give to ourselves internally. That we don't have to depend on any external importation or stuff like that. Just empowering the right people. So we're lacking in egg production. We're lacking in chicken production. We're lacking in maize production. Imagine you're lacking in everything that you get to eat on your daily basis. So that's an opportunity to say, okay, fine. If I go into this space with the right knowledge, with the right skill, with the right finance, I can actually contribute my own quota to making this work out. So the opportunities are huge. There's $1 billion, probably $1 trillion market across all production cycles. So I think it's a win-win situation. It's open for everyone to come in every way. For instance, in just processing alone, it's a huge market. For logistics alone, it's a huge market. For preservation alone, it's a huge market. You produce strawberries in Jos, and before it gets down south, it's spoiled because you don't have a refrigerating van to move them. So the whole space is really huge. Production, preservation, logistics, processing, it's huge. So I think, yes, it's a market that people are welcome into, and with the right knowledge and right skill and right finance, I think you should make it well.
Thank you so much for your insight, Jesse Osiobe. It was great to have you join us. Thank you for coming and joining us.
Thank you, okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for watching, everyone. It was great to have Jesse Osiobe join us today on this edition of Cable Live series, where we spoke about the impact of the pandemic on the agriculture sector in Nigeria. Join us again same time next week, and it's bye for now.